Hello Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be answering your relationship questions. If you are new to my channel, here we talk about classic living and traditional values, and I would love if you would consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And if you haven't already, headed over to my Substack newsletter where you'll get access to a ton of exclusive content, including my book club, my weekly exclusive articles, as well as a ton of other great stuff. Make sure to head over to classicallyabby.substack.com. P.S. You guys should actually go over and check it out. I know I say it at the beginning of every video, but we have a great community over there. And if you are looking for a way to encourage yourself to read, we are entering into winter. What else are you gonna do? You might as well pick up a book and read. This is such a great way to actually do it. And you have the support of a community where we're all discussing it together on Zoom. So I would actually recommend checking it out. It's a lot of fun. So I asked you guys on Instagram to submit any relationship questions that you had, any questions you had about dating and marriage, and you guys had some really interesting questions. So I'm excited to hop into it. Let's just get started. Okay, so here's an interesting one. How to handle disagreements about religion and clothing in a relationship. So I would assume that this has to do with modesty. And I actually have some insight into this because my husband and I used to disagree a little bit about modest rules. He actually wanted me to be more modest at the beginning of our marriage, and I was actually the one who pushed back on it because I had taken the feminist pill and had thought that it was very important for me to be able to express myself by showing off everything. But it can be difficult to navigate when one person wants the other to dress in a certain way that reflects your values. Now, I don't know that that's the case, but I have to kind of draw that assumption from what you're saying. So what I think what's important is for the person who wants to see the other person dressing differently, give them space to learn and grow while also being clear about what you would like, what you want, what would make you feel better in a religious context. I think that if you just force this kind of stuff on your spouse, on your partner, it won't go well because it needs to be something that they feel good about, they feel confident in, it feels like it was their decision. And if you constantly are forcing that idea on them, it's going to actually make them push back. What's more effective is to explain where you're coming from, kind of keep the discussion open and on the table, but allow your partner to come to it in their own time. So for us, Jacob really didn't want me to dress in a certain way, and it took me a little bit of time to figure out on my own why it was so important. And once I did, now I am so confident in my modesty. It is something that I'm really proud of. It's something that I talk about a lot here on my channel, but it was because he gave me the room to figure it out myself. And if he had just imposed it upon me, I don't think I would have come to it so lovingly. So that's what my recommendation is let your spouse figure it out on their own while also keeping the discussion open so that maybe you can influence where they're at. How should dating work between high schoolers? That is another great question. My feeling about dating in high school is if you are going to date in high school, it still needs to be for marriage. I don't believe in dating for fun, and especially not in high school when you are very hormonal, when you can be more rash and not make as good of decisions, and so act on sexual impulses. I think if you're going to date in high school, and I have known couples who have started dating in high school, became, high school sweethearts, and then got married. And so I think that's a really wonderful thing. If you can make that happen, absolutely do it. So my feeling is if you're dating for marriage in high school, date for marriage, and you can do it. If you're just dating to mess around, then I don't think it's a great idea because you can make some big mistakes in high school. Even though you're young and even though you're at home, you can make some bad decisions and you can, have some heartbreak. So I don't believe in dating for fun at any age. So if you're going to date for marriage. And if you're not ready to date for marriage, then don't date. That's just my perspective. Being single, I'm about to graduate college and have never gone on a date. So that is exciting. You are about to enter a really exciting part of your life. Dating is hard, but it can be fun if you do it right. So there's a lot of advice I could give you. I just did a whole speech on this for the Center for Conservative Women on how to date and do it well and enjoy it. But I'll just give you like one or two pieces of advice. I would say that the place to start is thinking about chemistry and compatibility. And I'm not gonna go into my theory on this again because I talk about it a lot, but I will link it here, a video that I've done on it, because I think that's really the best place to start, and understanding what chemistry is, what it looks like, but how you can't just build a relationship off of chemistry. And so having that list of compatible values there in your mind, ready to allow you to have a relationship that will last. So having those two things is really important, but also recognizing that the list of things that you might want from a spouse are not necessarily important if they're outside of those compatibility factors. So like that he's tall, or that he makes 6 figures, or that he lives in a certain place, like that stuff might go out the window. But the stuff that won't go out the window is those shared values. Do you want kids? Do you share a faith? Do you want to get married even? I mean, that stuff you need to be on the same page about. The stuff that you don't need to be on the same page about is if you like Disney movies. Favorite ways to put in extra effort: do something special for your husband during the week. I love that question. I think that what's actually the best way to go about this is ask your husband. For my husband, it's cooking. If I cook him a delicious meal during the week, because I usually cook him meals on the weekends, he feels so absolutely loved. That means the world to him. So me going out of my way 1 or 2 nights a week to make him a really delicious meal, and then we'll have leftovers the next night, makes him feel like on top of the world, like I've really done something special for him. That may not be the same for your husband. Your husband might say, oh, what would make me feel really special is if 1 night a week we did date night and we hired somebody, or we asked a family friend to come and watch the baby, or we asked, a grandma to come and watch our child, and we go out together. Or maybe he says once a week, I'd really like to watch a movie with you. Or maybe he's somebody who would value you cleaning the house or something like that, like doing a homemaking activity. Those are questions you're gonna have to ask him. And if he says something that you're like, oh, that's a lot, limit it in your mind to once a week. And if it's once a week, you can probably make it work. You can probably make it happen. That's how I view it, is ask your husband. Your husband will tell you what will make him feel special. So like I said, for me, it's cooking. For someone else, it might be something different. I will also say another thing that my husband feels really loved about is when I play games with him. So if we play a board game in the middle of the week, he feels so loved, and it really just like fills his cup. So just like figure it out, ask him what he would love and go off that. How to continue to date my husband. That's, I think that dating your husband really comes down to trying to not holding resentments. I know that sounds funny because it's like not about dating your spouse, right? That's like a bigger question. But when you've been married for a while, when you're both really busy and you're both dealing with a lot of responsibilities, what can make your relationship feel less fun and less like wanting to go on dates is when you start to resent each other or hold grudges for all of the little things that you wanted or hoped he would do and then he didn't, or vice versa. So I would say that start by getting rid of those resentments. Like, have a conversation with your spouse. Just work through the things that you guys are starting to build up against each other and clear the air. And then once you've done that, then you can go out and have fun and just enjoy each other's company. You're not lingering on those things that really bother you. You're just with each other. So start there. And then ways to date your husband, ways to date your spouse, get gussied up for each other. I think that it differs for different couples what they find attractive. But for my husband, he really likes when I wear dresses as opposed to pants. So if we're gonna go out, I will try and put on something that I know he likes. For me, I really like when my husband gets a haircut and gets his beard trimmed. That I find really attractive. So he will do that for me, and that will like allow us to continue to date each other, is doing things that make us attractive to one another. For my husband, he doesn't really care if I wear makeup. Well, sometimes he notices when I do my hair. He does compliment that. But something that he really likes is when I'm exercising. And when I exercise and I'm trying to be healthy and be fit, that to him is me putting in an effort that he appreciates. So that to him is like I'm dating him. Those kinds of things. Figure out what your husband finds attractive and just try and do that for him. Signs that he likes me. So here's the sign that a guy likes you. He will reach out. When you're in high school, when you're in college, you're like trying to pick apart everything that he does. You're trying to analyze, oh, well, he texted me here and he did this. If a guy likes you, it's the worst answer, but you'll know. Like you just will, because he will make it known. He's not gonna be ashamed. He will call you, he will text you, he will follow up, he will come to all your parties, he will do everything he can to be around you. That's how you know a guy likes you. There's not mystery to it. A guy who likes you, and the kind of guy you want to end up with who likes you, by the way, not just a guy who's going to like you, but also play games. A guy who likes you will be very clear about it. That's how you'll know. What do you think is the most important aspect of a relationship? I think the most important aspect of a relationship are chemistry and compatibility. When I talked about that earlier, but if you have those two things, you will have longevity in your relationship. How to find a religious partner, or at least find a partner who is similar to me. I always say this, I always say the same things, but I will say it again here quickly. Go to church, go to synagogue, go to your faith community, ask friends to set you up, friends who you trust, friends who you share a faith with, and volunteer at things that you think you'll meet people who share those values. So if you go to an event where you are volunteering at something that you care about, the people who care about it as well will be there. So that's how I would say you meet people who share your faith, share your values. You definitely want to ask people to set you up. That's really a big thing. How to let go of a past relationship. So this is an unpopular thing, and I'm just gonna say it because I disagree with 90% of the advice on this topic. I think you get over a relationship by getting over it and starting to date someone new. I don't think that most people need to sit and recover for days and days and years. I think it's a waste of time. And if you're dating well, if you're dating correctly, in the sense that you are dating for marriage and you're not letting yourself get attached to someone who you're not gonna end up with, then you won't have to get over anything that much. For me, I never had like a huge mourning period for any man that I dated because I dated for marriage. So once the guy wasn't right and it became clear he wasn't right, then I moved on and went out looking for a guy to date who was right. I think that if you've dated wrong and you've gotten yourself really caught up in the chemistry of a relationship and who haven't thought about the compatibility aspect of things, then it is harder to get over that person. That's why I think dating for fun is stupid in today's day and age. I think it's really dumb. But if you are in that situation, and I'm not criticizing you in the sense of like, I'm criticizing the system. I'm not criticizing you. You are just a part of it. You've just fallen into what everyone is telling you to do. Then yeah, take a little bit of time, but the thing you should be doing with that time is understanding why the relationship ended, understanding why this wasn't the right person for you, and trying to be as logical about it as you can. Because I know it's hard to say be logical about your feelings, but you kind of have to when you're dating, and we don't have an unlimited resource of time that allows us to waste a year or two getting over somebody. So that is my super unpopular opinion for this video. Intimacy while pregnant. Please advise. That's hilarious. There are books you can buy, and there are like what to expect kind of books. And I think that they all like talk about ways to be intimate while pregnant, because you still can. And it'll be fine. You will have a great time, you'll enjoy it, And it's obviously a little bit weird and a little bit more uncomfortable, you know, when you have a changing body, but you can still do it, and you should. It's good for your marriage. I really like a guy and I see myself marrying him. We're friends, but I don't know how to make the first move. Also, I dated one of his friends, but it didn't work out. It ended well. Yeah, that's a little bit of a situation. Here's what I'll say. There's two ways to go about this. One, making an assumption, and one is asking a question. And I prefer the asking a question route. Making the assumption would be, well, if you're friends and he were interested, why hasn't he made a move? But it's possible he hasn't made a move because you dated one of his friends and they're not totally simpatico on that. So I wouldn't make that assumption. My advice would be to ask. Ask this guy if he'd be interested in getting into a relationship, if you guys like each other, because you'll never know if you don't ask. And if you end up losing a friendship because you asked that question, that's okay. Men and women shouldn't be friends. Like, that's just my feelings on that anyway. So, and that's a relationship. It's more important that you ask the question of somebody who you could be hung up on than if you lose a friendship that will prevent you from dating other people. So I would just go for it. Ask the question, see what he says. Let us know what happens. Maintaining a healthy sex life. I think what's really important about maintaining a healthy sex life is talking about it. Talk to your spouse about it. You might have to schedule it if things get busy. I mean, life gets busy. Talk about it with your spouse. Figure out what works for both of you. Sex is something that is a conversation. So you should definitely be talking to each other about how to make it good for both of you, how to make it something you both enjoy, that you're doing it enough for both of you, that, you know, you found a happy medium with that, because not everyone, you know, most couples don't totally agree on what they want as far as frequency. So figuring out that, but also figuring out the things you guys like and enjoy with each other, and talking about it, doing fun things, and making it fun. You know, there are ways to spice it up, and you can spice it up in simple ways. It doesn't have to be these crazy things that everyone does nowadays that are insane. You just can do something as simple as buying something sexy that's new, that you haven't worn before, and just wearing that. Like, that is simple enough, and add something kind of fun and exciting to your sex life. How to explain to my girlfriend the importance of her having a more classically female role. Yeah, that is hard. Again, this kind of crosses over into what I was talking about earlier in this video as regards modesty and clothing, and encouraging something from your partner. I think that it's really important to constantly come from a place of encouragement rather than a place of scolding or trying to demand it. I think it's much more important to like have an open conversation. I think if you guys can have a conversation, just an open conversation about, these are things that I would like for us to do together. I always find that doing things together is a much better path than you do this. So if you are asking her to be more classically feminine, is that what you said? Classically female, you can also be more classically male. So start by talking about ways that you guys can be classic together. I want to go out to dinner once a week, and I want to dress up and go out and have a good time. I want to learn how to swing dance. Let's do that together. Let's go see an opera. We're going to do things together. I want to clean the house more. I would love for you to help. I want to learn how to cook. I would love for you to join in. You lead the way to being classic, and then she will want to join with you to being classic, and then as you become more classically male, she may end up being more classically feminine. So those are the two, that is the way I would recommend going about that, is do it as a team rather than you do this. Transitioning into married life from single life, adjusting to his way of doing things. That first year of marriage is so hard. It really is. And so you are not alone. Number one, you are not alone. I would say reframe that sentence though. You're adjusting to each other's way of doing things. You are not just adjusting to his way of doing things. He's adjusting to the way you do things too. And that's hard on both of you. So just give yourself time to adjust. It legitimately takes like a full year to get into the swing of things with marriage because it's just all compromises for a year and you're just like, this is so much. But once you get past the point of like, oh, this is how you do things, then it'll get so much easier. So just cut yourself some slack. You are probably doing great, but recognize that it's both of you compromising and not just you compromising. Reframe that, because if you keep that in your head, you're just gonna build up resentment after resentment, and that's something that's really hard to come back from. How did you and your husband figure out what you liked in bed with no prior experience? Together. Yeah. We did things together that we enjoyed and things that we didn't enjoy. And then we figured out, okay, this is what we like. This is what we don't. This is how we like to do things. This is what feels good. This is what doesn't feel good. We were able to do that because we loved each other and we trusted each other and we enjoyed each other enough. Like we wanted enjoyment for the other person, not just for ourselves. It was about making the other person feel good and ourselves feel good. It wasn't just, well, this is all about me, or like, I'm afraid to express what I feel. No, we were just really open and honest with each other because we were married, because we trusted each other, and that's what made our sex life so great. Keeping marriage healthy after baby. So I'm not gonna talk about the typical things like date night, dress up for each other, whatever. I kind of already mentioned some of that stuff. What I wanna talk about is taking enjoyment in your child together. Enjoying your child as a team is like the best way to keep your marriage healthy. I love seeing my baby play with my husband and then having the three of us play together. It is so important that you guys enjoy your child as a team. And it makes your marriage feel so strong and so healthy when you look at that little baby and you know that you guys did this together, are doing this together. So that's just like one thing you're not gonna always hear, but I think that like doing it as a team and loving your roles as mommy and daddy is like the best. It really does make your marriage so strong. I'd love to hear you talk about how to navigate conflict in a marriage. Lots of toxic advice on this topic. Yeah. So we actually did a whole podcast episode on this, which I would highly recommend. Check that episode out because we specifically talked about this. Classically Ever After. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts. The main thing that has been a huge game changer for us is recognizing the impulse to want to win an argument and being able to voice that to each other. So sometimes early on in our marriage, we would get into tiffs and we would realize like halfway through that we were wrong. One of us would realize that we were wrong. And it felt so bad to say it that it was very difficult for us to say it. Then we got to a point, and it was really Jacob who started this, where he was like, I know you're right, but it's like gonna make it, I feel like I'm losing if I say it. And that was enough for me to go, I get that. I appreciate where you're coming from. I get it. And that was enough he didn't really have to say he was sorry. Maybe later he said he was sorry, but in that moment, it was a recognition that I was more right in that argument. No one's ever 100% right, but I was more right in that argument than he was. I've been recording for so long, I got cut off. He wanted to express it in that moment, but it was uncomfortable. And so that, to me, that little understanding of, fighting is normal in marriage and wanting to win a fight is also normal in marriage. So recognizing that and saying that to each other can make a disagreement, it just diffuses the tension. And I think that that's really important. Should wives have a say in how their husbands dress? Absolutely. Husbands have a say in the way their wives dress, and wives have a say in the way their husbands dress. Definitely. That's part of being married, is you dress in a way to respect and honor your spouse. Now, how you go about that can be difficult because people are very attached to certain ways of dressing, but you can have that conversation, and you should. My husband loves when I dress sexy, but I feel more comfortable dressing more classic. How do I choose between modesty versus pleasing him? That's a very interesting thing. I would say dress sexy for him at home. When you're home, have a sexy pair of shorts that you like wearing for him. Have a little crop top or whatever, if that's what he likes on you. Wear that stuff around the house for him. And then when you go out, wear the stuff that you're more comfortable in. Now, I can also say that there might be a middle ground where he can go shopping with you and you guys can like choose some outfits together that are more classic but are his style. And he might appreciate that. So I would recommend doing that as well. But if he specifically likes sexy clothes, wear those around the house for him. Husband who prefers staying up late gaming to anything else. Yeah, that's hard. I can imagine that's difficult. Well, I think that there's a couple things there. One is have a conversation with him. I miss you. I want to hang out with you. I would like to watch a show with you. I'd love to read next to you. Can we do something together? Because I just miss you. And that's a great conversation to have. And you're married to the guy. I assume it's because you trust and love and respect each other. So have that conversation. But if you don't want to never let him play games, because for some guys that's a stress reliever, I would say ask if there's a game you could learn to play. Jacob has done that with me. Is he has played some games and then he's asked me to learn how to play, and then we've played together. And that's actually turned into something that we can do for fun and we enjoy it. So if he plays games and you, even if you're not familiar, because I'm not familiar with anything, I'm really bad at games, it can still be fun to just learn and do something as a team. So ask him if there's a game that he likes that you could play too, and then maybe you guys can play together. That's a really fun way to spend time together. I mean, get creative with ways to turn something that's a problem into something you guys both enjoy. Okay, last question. How do you deal with spats or disagreements or overall little fights when your hubby does something that just bothers you, or just trying to not get short-tempered easily? We've been married for 2 years. I'm 22 and he is 23. Communication is very important to us, and I don't think we have many problems thanks to that. But some days are longer than others. Hormones can rage. I may have a bad day at work and just be tired, and I can become grouchy over something small. I always try to wait until I'm not grouchy anymore to talk to him about what bothered me so that I don't do something out of spite. And the solution can't be found if I'm grouchy and not talking with him. See my problem? A vicious cycle indeed. I appreciate any advice you've got. So I respect that you are thinking about these things and that you're trying to go about them in the best possible way. I think that you not coming to him when you're grouchy and then not being able to calm down because you haven't gone to him is actually not so helpful. I think it's better to just explain that to him. Like my husband always says, he always brings up Seinfeld, and he always says, it's sometimes better to just get the awkwardness in the air. Like just say it. And then it's out there. So it's been addressed. So you could just say these exact things to your husband. I get grouchy when I feel like I can't solve this problem, but I don't really want to be grouchy with you when I come and talk to you about this problem. So I'm in a conundrum, and with that in mind, here's the thing that's bothering me that I'm grouchy about. I'm gonna try to keep calm. I'm gonna try to not let that annoyance come into the conversation and ruin the conversation, but that's where I'm at. There you go, done. Like, then you can proceed with the conversation from there, but not addressing it until you've calmed down, which you can't calm down because you haven't found the solution. It's just not gonna really work. So it's much better to just go to your husband and say, this is where I'm at. I'm kind of frustrated. And then on your side, you need to not allow the frustration, the grouchiness to pervade the conversation. It can be in the back of your mind, like, this is what is bothering me, but like come towards the conversation with more of a level-headedness, and you'll find that it'll be much more fruitful. Because when you come to a conversation, to a discussion, and you're already heated, the other person is on the defensive. But if you are calm and collected and you're just like, this is where I'm at, this is what's frustrating me, can we work this out? Then the other person doesn't have to have their hackles up. They're just there to listen. That's my advice. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you would give advice, what you would say in these situations. If you aren't already subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you haven't already headed over to my Substack, make sure to head over there. If you'd like to follow me on social media, it's @ClassicallyAbby, absolutely everywhere. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.